So today our topic is about AC power analysis. So for the quotation for today, the best way to protect the future is to create it. So for the contents of this topic, we'll be having some introduction, instantaneous and average power, maximum average power transfer, effective or RMS value, apparent power and power factor, complex power, power triangle, conservation of AC power, power factor correction, and of course the application. So as for the introduction, we have here the power analysis. So this is of paramount importance. Power is the most important quantity in electric utilities, electronic and communication systems, because such systems involve transmission of power from one point to another. Also, every industrial and household electrical device, every fan, motor, lamp, pressing iron, TV, personal computer, has a power reading that indicates how much power the equipment requires. Exceeding the power rating can do permanent damage to an appliance, so we all know that. The most common form of electric power, so we have 50 or 60 Hz AC power. The choice of AC over DC allowed high voltage power transmission from the power generating plant to the consumer. So when we transmit high voltage power, it is in terms of AC and not DC. So that's the advantage of AC over DC. So the instantaneous power P of T absorbed by an element is the product of the instantaneous voltage V of T across the element and the instantaneous current I of T through it. So we have here the formula P of T is equal to V of T times I of T. So this is just similar with our formula before during circuits 1. P is equal to IV or VI, but this time we have here the time. So this is in terms of time or dependent with time. So we have the instantaneous power. So our unit for instantaneous power is in watts. So this is the power at any instant of time. So by the name itself, instantaneous. So we have here given time and we're going to solve the instantaneous power by that instant of time. So it is the rate at which an element absorbs the energy. Previous slide, this is A and this is B. So omega T plus theta V minus omega T plus theta I. So omega T will be cancelled and we will have theta V plus 1/2 times Vm Im cosine of 2 omega T plus theta V plus theta I. So just summation of the A and B angle. This shows us that the instantaneous power has two parts. Okay, so this part, first part, and this one is the second part. So the first part is constant or the time independent. So as we can see on this first part of our formula, there is no time here. Its value depends on the phase difference between the voltage and the current. The second part is a sinusoidal function whose frequency in which is twice the angular frequency of the voltage or the current. We have cosine 2 omega T plus the phase angle of voltage and the current. So the instantaneous power changes with time and is therefore difficult to measure. The average power is more convenient to measure. In fact, the wattmeter, the instrument for measuring power, responds to average power. So we have here the figure for the instantaneous power P of T entering a circuit. So we have here the sinusoidal wave. This one is the 1/2 Vm Im. And this one is the 1/2 Vm Im cosine of theta V minus theta I. For the average power, so same unit, we have watts. So this is the average of the instantaneous power over one period. Thus, the average power is given by this formula. P is equal to 1 over T integral of P of T dt from 0 to T. Perform the integration over the actual period of P of T, which is T0, T2. We get this formula. So P is equal to 1 half BMIM cosine of theta V minus theta I. So when theta V is equal to theta I, the voltage and current are in phase. So we'll have cosine of 0. So our voltage and current are in phase. This implies a purely resistive circuit or resistive load. And our formula for power, so this is our usual formula for power. We have here VMIN, but since we're looking for the average power, we have here 1 half. And then 1 half I squared R and 1 half I squared R. And when theta V minus theta I is equal to 90 degrees, we have a purely reactive circuit. So our formula would be 1 half VMIM cosine of 90 degrees. So theta V minus theta is equal to 90 degrees. We have cosine 90, and cosine 90 is equal to 0. So this means that we have a purely reactive circuit, and it absorbs no average power since we have computed here that P is equal to 0. So in summary, our resistive load absorbs power at all times. This is our formula for the power, or resistive load power. While a reactive load, may it be inductor or capacitor, absorbs 0 average powers as computed here. P is equal to 0. We have our sample problem. Given that V of t is equal to 120 cosine of 377t plus 45 degrees volts, and I of t is equal to 10 cosine of 377t minus 10 degrees. Find the instantaneous power and average power absorbed by the passive linear network. So the passive linear network, so this is also the figure as slides. So we have the sinusoidal source as our input and the positive linear network. So we have already given V of t and I of t, and we have to solve for the instantaneous power and the average power. So let's start. So we know that our formula is P is equal to V times I. So let's just multiply. We have here 120 cosine of 377t plus 45 multiplied by 10 cosine of 377t minus 10. So we will be having 1200 cosine of 377t plus 45 cosine of 377t minus 10. And using the trigonometric identity that we have identified previously, so I'll just write it here. We have cosine A cosine B is equal to 1 half cosine A minus B plus cosine A plus B. So in our example, this is our A and this is our B. So the angle of voltage V of t and the angle of I of t. So our P is equal to 1200 over 2, and then we have here the cosine A minus B. So 377t plus 45 minus 377t minus 10. So 377t will be cancelled, and we will be having 45 minus negative 10. Okay? Plus cosine of A plus B. So 377t times 2 plus 45 minus 10. Now let's just simplify. So 1200 divided by 2 is equal to 600, and then this is cosine 55 plus cosine of 700 54t plus 35 degrees. So we can distribute 600 times cosine 55 plus 600 times cosine 754t plus 35 degrees. So our P of t, let's put the t here just to denote the instantaneous power. So P of t is equal to 344.2 plus 600 times 754t plus 35 degrees. And of course, our unit is watts. So this is our instantaneous power. So remember, instantaneous power, we have here T in our equation or in our final answer, because instantaneous power is the power at a given instant of time. Now to solve for the average power, so our formula P is equal to 1 half Bm Im cosine of theta v minus theta I. So this will be 1 half times 120 times 10 times cosine of, so theta v minus theta I. So this will be 3770 plus 45 minus 3770 minus 10, or simply 45 minus negative 10, or this is equal to 344.2 watts. So in the instantaneous power, we have the 344.2, and that is also equal to our average power. So that means the constant part of the instantaneous power is equal to the average power. Next problems, we have to calculate the average power absorbed by an impedance C is equal to 30 minus G70 ohms when a voltage V is equal to 120 angle 0 is applied across it. So in order for us to solve for the average power, we have to solve first the current. So I is equal to V over Z. So our V is 120 angle 0 divided by 30 minus J70. So this is equal to 1.576 angle 66.8 degrees ampere. Now going back to our formula for the average power, P is equal to 1 half Vm Im cosine theta V minus theta I. So this will be 1 half times, now our voltage is 120 and our current is this one, 1.576. And then for the angle, so theta V, phase angle of voltage is 0, and then theta of current 66.8 degrees. So we have the average power equal to 37.24 watts. Next, we have to find the average power supplied by the source and the average power absorbed by the resistor in this circuit below. We have here 5 angle 30 as the voltage source and the series combination of 4 ohms and negative G2 ohm capacitor. So in order for us to get the average power, so just like the previous example, we have to find the current first. So I is equal to 5 angle 30 over 4 minus J2, since this is series, so 4 minus J2. So this will be 1.118 angle 56.57 degrees ampere. So for the average power. 1/2 times voltage is 5, current is 1.118, cosine of angle of voltage is 30 degrees, angle of current is 56.57. Therefore, our average power is equal to 2.5 watts. And then, if we will get the average power absorbed by the resistor, so we know that the current flowing through this resistor is the same as the total current I, since they are series. So IR is also equal to this value. So for the voltage drop, we have 4 times IR, or 4 times 1.118 angle 56.57. So this is equal to 4.472 angle 56.57 volts. So for the average power absorbed by the resistor, we have 1/2 times voltage is 4.472 and current is 1.118. So this is resistive load, resistor. So cosine is 0, and that's equal to 1. So this is equal to 2.5 watts, which is the same as the average power supplied. So 0 average power is absorbed by the capacitor. And since we have here computed the average power supplied by the source, 2.5 watts, and this one, power absorbed by the load, and also equal to 2.5 watts. Therefore, the power absorbed by the capacitor is equal to 0. Next, we have here the maximum average power transfer. So in rectangular form, the Thevenin impedance and the load impedance are ZTH is equal to RTH plus JXTH, and ZL is equal to RL plus JXL. And then the current through the load, SI, is equal to VTH over ZTH plus ZL. So if we will be solving the average power delivered to the load, so that would be 1/2 I squared times RL, or the resistive load. For maximum average power transfer, so ZL must be selected so that the XL is equal to negative XTH, the Thevenin equivalent for the reactive or the reactance, and RL is equal to negative RTH. So ZL is equal to RL plus JXL equal to RTH minus JXTH. For maximum average power transfer, the load impedance ZL must be equal to the complex conjugate of the Thevenin impedance ZTH. So this one denotes conjugate of Thevenin impedance. So this result is known as the maximum average power transfer theorem for the sinusoidal steady state. Our formula is Pmax equal to VTH squared over 8 RTH. So in a situation in which the load is purely real, the condition for maximum power transfer is obtained by this formula. So RL is equal to the square root of RTH squared plus the square of XTH plus XL. By setting XL is equal to 0, that is RL is equal to RTH squared plus XTH squared, or this is also equal to our magnitude of Thevenin impedance. This means that for maximum average power transfer to a purely resistive load, the load impedance is equal to the magnitude. And so this one is the magnitude of the Thevenin impedance. Now, for us to fully understand the concepts of the maximum power transfer. So let us have this sample problem. Determine the load impedance that maximizes the average power drawn from the circuit below. What is the maximum average power? So on the last slides, said that we should get the Thevenin equivalent or the ZTH first. So for ZTH, as you can remember, we have to turn off the sources in our circuit and then proceed with the computation of the equivalent impedance. So if we will short this one, so we have here 4 ohm parallel to 8 minus J6 and then series with J5. So this will be J5 plus the 4 ohm parallel with 8 minus J6, or it's equal to J5 plus 4 times 8 minus J6 all over 4 plus 8 minus J6. And this is equal to 2.933 plus J 4.467 ohms. So after solving the ZTH, we need to solve for the VTH. So let's consider now the voltage source 10 angle 0 volts. So if we will get the VTH, so the drop will be here. So we'll get the voltage drop at 8 minus J6. So we can use voltage divider. VTH is equal to 10 angle 0 multiplied by 8 minus J6 all over 4 plus 8 minus J6. So this will be equal to 7.454 angle negative 10.3 volts. So the load impedance draw the maximum power from the circuit when our ZL is equal to ZTH conjugate. So if we get the value of ZTH 2.933 plus J 4.467, so our ZL should be 2.933 minus J 4.467 ohms. So for the maximum average power, so this would be Pmax. So that is equal to the VTH squared over 8RTH. So we have VTH as 7.454 squared all over 8 times in this rectangular form of our impedance 2.93 minus J 4.467. So we know that this is RTH and this is XTH. So RTH is 2.933 and this will be equal to 2.368 watts. Okay. Next, in the circuit below, find the value of RL. So we have here RL and find the value of RL that will absorb the maximum average power and calculate that power. Okay. So let us solve first for this ZTH. So we will short this voltage source 150 angle 30. So we will be having 40 minus J30 parallel with J20. So ZTH equal to J20 times 40 minus J30 all over J20 plus 40 minus J30. So this will be equal to 9.412 plus J 22.35 ohms. So by voltage divider again, we will be solving the VTH. So that's equal to our voltage is 150 angle 30 multiplied by J20 all over J20 plus 40 minus J30. And this is equal to 72.76 angle 134 degrees volts. So the value of RL, okay, the value of RL that will absorb the maximum average power, so RL, so this will be equal to the magnitude of ZTH, and that is equal to the square root of 9.412 squared plus 22.35 squared, and equal to 24.25 ohms. So for the current on this load, so that is equal to VTH over ZTH plus RL. So VTH is equal to 72.76 angle 134 degrees divided by 9.412 plus J22.35 plus RL of 24.25. So this will be equal to 1.8 angle 100.42 ampere. So for the maximum average power, and calculate the power. So power is equal to 1 half I squared RL. Okay, so the power I squared RL times 1 half. So 1 half times our I is 1.8. This will be squared, and then RL is 24.25. So this will be equal to 39.29 watts. Next, we'll be discussing about the effective or RMS value. So the idea of effective value arises from the need to measure the effectiveness of a voltage or current source in delivering power to resistive load. So the effective value of a periodic current is a DC current that delivers the same average power to a resistor as a periodic current. So we have the formula for the effective current and effective voltage. Effective current is equal to 1 square root of 1 over t integral of I squared dt from 0 to t, and same with effective voltage, the square root of 1 over t times the integral b squared dt from 0 to t. So this indicates that the effective value is the square root of the mean or average of the square of the periodic signal. Thus, the effective value is often known as the root mean square value, or the RMS value for short. And we write I effective equal to I RMS, and V effective is equal to V RMS. So for any periodic function x of t, in general, the RMS value is given by x RMS is equal to square root of 1 over t integral of x squared dt from 0 to t, and then the effective value of a periodic signal is its root mean square, or the RMS value. That's equal to Vm over square root of 2. Now we have here the sample problem. Determine the RMS value of the current waveform in figure below. If the current is passed through a 2 ohm resistor, find the average power absorbed by the resistor. So if we will observe this graph, so from 0 to 2, so the value increases from 0 to 10. And then on 2 to 4, we have negative 10. Then 6 to 8, we have negative 10. How do you express it in a relationship? So for 0 up to this point, we can say this is 2, 10. So we can get the equation here. What I'm doing for this graph is I will use the 2-point form. Y minus y sub 1 is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 times x minus x1. So this will be 0, 0. So y minus, my y1 is 0. And then y2 is 10 minus 0. And then x2 is 2 minus 0. And then we have x minus x1 is also 0. So I have here y equal to 5x. But since our horizontal axis is t, so this is equal to 5t. Okay, so we can write the relationship as I of t equal to 5t from 0 to 2. And then negative 10 for 2 to 4. And as you can see, the period repeats every 4. So from 0 to this point, then down, then negative 10, then back here again, then repeat the cycle. So t is equal to 4, our period. So for the RMS value, then substitute. Our formula is the square root of 1 over t I squared dt from 0 to t. So substitute, we have square root of 1 over 4 integral 5t squared dt plus negative 10 dt squared from 2 to 4. Ayan. So this will be so we have here 1/4, and then this one we have 25t squared dt plus bracket plus 0 2 to 4. This will be 100 dt, and then integral, so square root of 1/4 times, so integral of 25t squared is 25t cubed over 3 by power rule, and then from 0 to 2 plus we have 100 dt, so that is 100t. Okay, 100t from 2 to 4. And so simplify, we'll be having 1/4 times 25. So this will be 25 times 8 over 3. Like t cube, so this will be 2 cube minus 0 cube plus 100 times 4 minus 2. So this will be square root of 1/4 times 2 cube times 25 over 3 is 200 over 3 plus 4 minus is 2 times 100 is 200. And so RMS would be equal to 8.165 ampere. And so the power absorbed by the 2 ohm resistor is equal to I squared RMS times R. So I is equal to 8.165 squared, and our R is 2 as stated in our problem. So this will be 133.3 watts. next problem. So the waveform shown in the figure below is a half-wave rectified sine wave. Find the RMS value and the amount of average power dissipated in the resistor. So it says here that we have here sine wave. So our V of t is equal to 10 sine t, since we have sine wave and the amplitude is 10. So that is from 0 up to pi. And then we also have 0 from point pi up to 2 pi. So 0 from pi to 2 pi. Okay. So the RMS value is obtained. So instead of writing the square root, we can just put V squared RMS equal to 1 over t integral of V squared dt. So our period here is 2 pi. T is equal to 2 pi, since um, our waveform repeats the pattern every 2 pi. This will be 1 over 2 pi. So 0 to pi, we have here 10 sine t squared dt plus 0 to 2 pi 0 squared dt. So we will be having here 10 squared, so 100 sine squared t. We can use the identity sine squared t equal to 1 half 1 minus cosine 2t for us to integrate it easily. So VRMS squared equal to 1 over 2 pi 0 to pi. This will be 100 over 2, and then 1 minus cosine 2t dt, and then this one is 0, so 0. So we'll be having 100 divided by 2 is 50 over 2 pi 50 over 2 pi, and then integral of 1 minus cosine 2t is t minus integral of cosine is sine, so we have sine, and then integral of the 2, so we should write here d over 2, and then limits from 0 to pi. Okay, so simplify, we have 50 over 2 pi, so our t minus sine 2t over 2 limit is pi 0 to pi, so this will be pi minus sine 2 pi over 2 minus 0. So this will be equal to this will be equal to 0, and we'll be having this is cancelled, so we have 25. So VRMS squared is 25, therefore VRMS is equal to 5 volts. So because we have here the squared, so VRMS equal to 5 volts. So the power now is equal to VRMS squared over R, or 5 squared over R. I did not put here the value of the resistor. Power dissipated in a resistor in a given 10 ohm. R is 10. Sorry. So 10. So R is equal to 10. So this will be 2.5 watts. Next topic, we have here the apparent power and power factor. So the average power is the product of two terms. The product VRMS times IRMS is known as the apparent power S. The factor cosine theta V minus theta is called the power factor PF. So the apparent power, our unit is VA. That is the product of the RMS values of voltage and current. So S is equal to VRMS times IRMS. So the apparent power is measured in volt amperes or VA to distinguish it from the average or the real power, which is measured in watts. So the power factor is dimensionless, since it is the ratio of the average power to the apparent power. The power factor, real power, the average power divided by apparent power, and it's also equal to cosine theta V minus theta I. And the angle is called the power factor angle. Yan. The angle is the power factor angle, since it is the angle whose cosine is the power factor. Power factor angle is equal to the angle of the load impedance if V is the voltage across the load and I is the current through it. It's evident from the fact that if we compute for the impedance, so we have Z is equal to V over I, Vm theta V over Im theta I, so Vm over Im. Angle of theta V minus theta I. And as you can see, this is similar with this one. Therefore, if we will get the impedance and we have it in the polar form, so the angle here is also equivalent to the power factor angle. Okay? And similarly, if we have here the values, solving for the impedance given RMS values of voltage and current, so same, maybe RMS over IRMS, angle theta V minus theta I. So, still the same with the power factor angle. So, the power factor, the cosine of the phase difference between the voltage and the current, it is also the cosine of the angle of the load impedance. So, the power factor may be seen as that factor by which the apparent power must be multiplied to obtain the real or average power. The value of PF ranges between 0 and unity. So the value of PF ranges between 0 and unity. For a purely resistive load, the voltage and current are in phase, so that the theta V minus theta I is equal to 0, and our power factor is equal to 1 for resistive load. This implies that the apparent power is equal to the average power, since the power factor is equal to the average power over apparent power. And if this is equal to 1, therefore, the average power is equal to the apparent power. For a purely reactive load, the theta V minus theta is equal to plus or minus 90 degrees, and PF is equal to 0. So in this case, the average power is also 0. In between these two extreme cases, PF is said to be leading or lagging. So we can actually determine if the power factor is leading or lagging. So if the power factor is leading, so that means the current leads voltage. And that only happens when our load is capacitive. Okay? Capacitive load, this is leading PF. And then if we have lagging PF, that means the current lags the voltage. So if you can still remember LE, that is current, voltage leads or current lags. And this is inductive load naman. Yan. So this is lagging PF or lagging power factor. And so we have here a sample problem. A series connected load draws a current I of T is equal to 4 cosine 100 pi T plus 10 degrees A when the applied voltage is V of T equal to 120 cosine 100 pi T minus 1 degrees. Find the apparent power and the power factor of the load. Determine the element values that form the series connected load. So for the apparent power, that is S equal to VRMS IRMS. So we have here voltage, 120, so the VRMS of that is 120 over square root of 2 times the IRMS, which is 4 over square root of 2. This is equal to 240 VA unit for apparent power. And then solving for the power factor, that is equal to cosine theta v minus theta I, or cosine of, for theta v, that is negative 20, and then for theta I, that is 10, so minus 10. So this is equal to 0.866, and this is positive, therefore this is a leading power factor. So the PF, or the power factor, is leading because the current leads the voltage. So the power factor may also be obtained from the load impedance. As you can remember a while ago, if we will get the impedance, is equal to V over I. We have 120, angle negative 20, this one, and I is 4, angle 10. So this is equal to 30, angle negative 30, or in rectangular we have 25.98 minus J 15 ohms. So computing for the PF, cosine negative 30, since this is the power factor angle, the negative 30, and that's also equal to 0.866. So whichever you choose to get the power factor, so it will still be the same answer, 0.866. So the load impedance, they can be modeled by series connection of 25.98 and reactance of J15. So if you will get the element values, so we have 25.98 as the resistor, and then we'll get for the value of the capacitors. For the capacitor, we have X is equal to negative 15 minus equal to negative 1 over omega c. Okay, so negative 15 is equal to negative 1 over, our omega is 105, and then value of c. So c is equal to 212.2 microfarad. Therefore, we have the circuit um, we have the circuit 25.98 ohms in series with 212.2 microfarad capacitor. Next, determine the power factor of the entire circuit of figure below as seen by the source. So calculate the average power delivered by the source. So we can compute for the total impedance first. If we compute for the total impedance, we have here 4 in parallel with negative J2, and then in series with 6. So Z is equal to 6 plus parallel negative J2, or 6 plus 4 times negative J2 over 4 minus J2. So this will be equal to 6.8 minus J 1.6, or in polar we have 7 angle negative 13.24. And we know that this angle is also equal to power factor angle. So we can solve for PF. PF is equal to cosine this angle negative 13.24, and this is equal to 0.9734 positive. So meaning this is leading power factor. Since the impedance is capacitive, negative C, J 1.6. So solving for the RMS value of our current, so IRMS equal to VRMS over Z. So yung VRMS natin, we have 30, angle 0, this one, divided by our impedance. We can use either rectangular or polar to compute. So this is equal to 4.286 angle 13.24 degrees ampere. So for the average power supplied by the source, power is equal to VRMS times IRMS times PF. So VRMS is 30 times IRMS is 4.286. It's a power factor 0.9734. Since this this is also equal to cosine of theta b minus theta I. And so this will be equal to 125 watts. You may also get this value by using the formula P is equal to I squared RMS R. Okay, so we have here 4.286 squared times the R here on the rectangular form of our impedance. So the R is 6.8. And we will have the same answer of 125 watts. Now we have here the complex power. Considerable effort has been expended over the years to express power relations as simple as possible. Power engineers have coined the term complex power, which they use to find the total effect of parallel loads. Complex power is important in power analysis because it contains all the information pertaining to the power absorbed by a given load. So we have our the apparent power equal to the I squared RMS times Z equal to the VRMS squared over Z, the conjugate of the impedance. And then we have here VRMS times the conjugate of the IRN. Since Z is equal to R plus GX, this equation becomes I squared or IRMS squared times R plus GX. So that is the Z. We are equal to P plus GQ, where P and Q are the real and imaginary parts of the complex power. So this the P here is the I squared RMS R, and then the JQ would be the X times I squared RMS. So this one is the real, P is real, Q is the imaginary power. Yan. So, same here. P is the average real power and it depends on the load resistance, or Q depends on the load reactance, or X, and it's called the reactive or quadrature power. We notice that power is equal to the VRMS times IRMS cosine of theta B minus theta I, wherein us in the Q we have VRMS times IRMS sine theta B minus theta I. So the real power P is the average power in watts delivered to a load. It is the only useful power. It is the actual power dissipated by the load. The reactive power Q is a measure of the energy exchange between the source and the reactive part of the load. The unit of Q is volt ampere reactive. Yan, take note, volt ampere reactive. Distinguish it from the real power, whose unit is watts. Okay, so the reactive power is being transferred back and forth between the load and the source. It represents a lossless interchange between the load and the source. Notice that Q is equal to 0 for resistive load, unity, power factor. If Q is less than 0 for so that means we have capacitive load and we have leading PF. And if Q is greater than 0, we have inductive load or lagging PF. Thus, the complex power in volt ampere is the product of the RMS voltage phasor and the complex conjugate of the RMS current phasor. So as a complex quantity, its real power P and its imaginary power is the active power Q. So introducing the complex power enables us to obtain the real and reactive powers directly from voltage and current phase. Yan. So we have here the summary for the formulas. Complex power is equal to P plus JQ. Yan. And we have here the formula for VRMS IRMS theta B minus theta I. Apparent power, square root of P squared plus Q squared. Magnitude. Real power, S cosine theta B minus theta I, wherein if we have the reactive power, that is sine theta B minus theta, and then we have the power factor, real power or the average power divided by the apparent power, which is also equal to cosine theta B minus theta I. This shows how the complex power contains all the relevant power information in a. So it is a standard practice to represent S, P, and Q in the form of a triangle known as the power triangle, shown in figure 11.21. So this is actually similar to the impedance triangle, showing the relationship between Z, R, and S. So we have here the power triangle. So we have here the apparent power, the Q, complex power, and then the real power. And we have here the impedance, resistance, reactance. So in the power triangle, this is our apparent power, the horizontal axis, the real power, and the vertical axis is the imaginary power. So if we have positive Q, we have lagging PF. If we have negative Q, we have leading PF. Now we have here a sample problem. So the voltage across a load is V of t equal to 60 cosine omega t minus 10 degrees volts, and the current through the element in the direction of the voltage drop is I of t equal to 1.5 cosine omega t plus 50 degrees ampere. So find the complex and apparent powers, real and reactive powers, and the power factor and the load impedance. So first, for the complex and apparent power, and so let's find the VRMS values of the voltage and current. So VRMS is equal to 60 over square root of 2, and then we have your angle negative 10. And then for the IRMS, we have here 1.5 over square root of 2, and then we have here angle 50. So to get the complex power, that is S equal to V RMS times IRMS conjugate. So that is equal to 60 over square root of 2 angle negative 10, and then the conjugate of IRMS. So 1.5 over square root of 2, this will be negative 50. So this equal to 45 angle negative 60 volt ampere. So the apparent power is the magnitude. Okay, so the magnitude is just simply the 45 VA volt ampere. Now for the real and reactive powers, we can express the complex power in rectangular form. So itong value of S, which is the 45 angle negative 60, can be expressed in 22.5 negative J 38.97 in rectangular form. So since S is equal to P plus JQ, so the real power is 22.5 watts, and the reactive power is negative 38.97. Unit is VAR, for reactive power. And then lastly, power factor and the load impedance. So power factor, so this is equal to cosine, so this one, the negative 60 angle, this equal to 0.5 positive, so this means leading power factor. And then for the impedance, so simply Ohm's law, Z is equal to V over I. Voltage is 60 angle negative 10 all over I 1.5 angle positive 50, and T angle negative 60 degrees. So same angle of power factor angle. You can also express the impedance in terms of rectangular form, so it's up to you. Then we have the conservation of AC power. So the principle of conservation of power applies to AC circuits as well as to DC circuits. So we have here I equal to I1 plus I2, and current entering equal to current leaving, and the complex power supplied by the source is S equal to V times the conjugate of I equal to V times the conjugate of I1 plus conjugate of I2, and we have here S1 plus S2, where S1 and S2 denote the complex powers delivered to the loads Z1 and Z2 respectively. So if the loads are connected in series, so by KBL we have V1 plus V2. So the complex power supplied by the source is S equal to V times the conjugate of I, or V1 plus V2 times conjugate of I equal to V1 times conjugate of I plus V2 conjugate of I, or simply it's S1 plus S2. So we conclude from equations above that whether the loads are connected in series or in parallel, the total power supplied by the source equals the total power delivered to the load. Thus, in general, for a source connected to n loads, we have the summation S is equal to S1 plus S2, and so forth up to S sub n. So this means that the total complex power in a network is the sum of the complex powers of the individual components. This is also true of real power and reactive power, but not true of apparent power. This expresses the principle of conservation of AC power. So the complex, real, and reactive powers of the sources equal the respective sums of the complex, real, and reactive powers of the individual loads. From this, we imply that the real or reactive power flow from sources in a network equals the real or reactive power flow into the other elements in the network. So we have a sample problem. Figure below shows a load being fed by a voltage source through a transmission line. So the impedance of the line is represented by the impedance and a return path. Find the real power and reactive power absorbed by A, the source, B, the line, and letter C is the load. So for this problem, let us solve it here. So for the first one, we have to find the real power and the reactive power absorbed by the source. So first, let's get the total impedance. So for the total impedance here, we have Z is equal to 4 plus J2, and then plus 15 minus J10, and that would be equal to 19 minus J8. And in polar form, this is equal to 20.62 angle of negative 22.83 degrees ampere. So to solve for the current, so since this is just a series circuit, so I is equal to Vs, or that's equal to 220 angle 0 over our impedance, which is 20.62 angle negative 22.83. So this is equal to 10.67 angle 22.83 degrees ampere. So for letter A, let's have it here. For the source, the complex power, source, S sub S, that's equal to Vs times the conjugate of I. So this will be equal to 220 angle 0 times 10.67 angle negative 22.83. So this will be equal to 2347.4 angle negative 22.83. In rectangular, that is equal to 2163.5 minus J 910.8 VA. So from this rectangular form, we know that the real power is 216.5. This is our real power. And this one is the reactive power. Yan. So that is the real power and reactive power absorbed by the source. Now for the line, so the voltage for the line, so this is equal to 4 plus J2 times the current I. So this is equal to times 10.67 angle of 22.83, and this is equal to 47.72 angle 49.4 degrees VRMS. So the complex power absorbed by the line, so let's say this is S line, and formula V line times the current conjugate, this will be 47.72 angle 49.4, and then the conjugate of the current, so that is 10.67 angle negative 22.83. So this is equal to 509.2 angle 26.57 degrees. So in rectangular, that is equal to 455.4 plus J227.7 B ampere. So with this rectangular form, we know that this is the real power, and this is the reactive power. Now for the letter C, for the load. So BL is equal to, this one is the load, the 15 minus J10, then multiplied by I. So that would be 15 minus J10 times 10.67 angle 22.83. And this is equal to 192.38 angle negative 10.87 VRMS. So the complex power, that would be S, let's say this is L. So VL times I conjugate, so that is 192.38 angle negative 10.87 degrees multiplied by 10.67 angle is negative 22.83. So this will be equal to 2053 angle negative 33.7 degrees, or in rectangular, this is 1708 minus J1139 VA. So this is the real power, and this one is the reactive power. Next, for the power factor correction, so most domestic loads such as washing machines, air conditioners, and refrigerators, and industrial loads such as induction motors are inductive and operate with a low lagging power factor. Although the inductive nature of the load cannot be changed, we can increase its power factor. So the process of increasing the power factor without altering the voltage or current to the original load is known as the power factor correction. Since most loads are inductive, a load's power factor is improved or corrected by deliberately installing a capacitor in parallel with the load. So this is the image of the power factor correction. So the letter E here is the original inductive load, and then for the letter B, have the inductive load with improved power factor. So it was improved by adding a parallel capacitor in this inductive load. We can look at the power factor correction from another perspective. Consider the power triangle in figure 11.29. So this is a power triangle illustrating the power factor correction. So if the original inductive load has apparent power S1, then P is equal to S1 cosine theta 1, and Q1 is equal to S1 sine theta 1. So, equal to P tangent theta 1. If we desire to increase the power factor from cosine theta 1 to cosine theta 2 without altering the real power, then the new reactive power is equal to Qt is equal to P tangent theta 2. Although the most common situation in practice is that of an inductive load, it is also possible that the load is capacitive. That is, the load is operating at a leading power factor. In this case, an inductor should be connected across the load for power factor correction. The required shunt inductance L can be calculated from this formula. QL is equal to VRMS squared over XL equal to VRMS squared over omega L. And L is equal to VRMS squared over omega Q sub L, where Q sub L is equal to Q1 minus Q2, the difference between the new and the old reactive powers. Now let's apply that concept to this sample problem. When connected to a 120 volt RMS 60 Hz power line, a load absorbs 4 kW at a lagging power factor of 0.8. Find the value of capacitance necessary to raise the PF or the power factor to 0.95. Okay, so our goal here is to improve the power factor of 0.8 to 0.95. So, if PF is equal to 0.8, then you can say that cosine theta 1 is equal to 0.8 or theta 1 is equal to 36.87 degrees, where theta 1 is the phase difference between the voltage and the current. We obtain the apparent power from the real power and the PF as S1 equal to P over cosine theta 1. So, our P here is 4 kilowatts. And then, cosine theta 1 or cosine 36.87, or we can just put 0.8. Let's delete this one and simply write the 0.8. So, we have here S1 as 5,000 volt ampere. And then, the reactive power, Q1 is equal to S1 sine theta. So, this will be 5,000 sine 36.87 degrees. And this is equal to 3,000 bar. So, when the power factor is corrected or raised to 0.95, if PF is equal to 0.95, therefore the cosine theta 2 is equal to 0.95. And this angle will be equal to 18.19 degrees. So, S2 will be P over cosine theta 2. So, P will not be changed. So, same 4 kilowatt over cosine theta 2 or 0.95. So, this will be 4210.5 volt ampere. And then, the new reactive power would be Qt is equal to S2 sine theta 2. And S2 is equal to 4210.5 times sine 18.19 degrees. And this will be equal to 1314.4 bar. So, the difference between the new and old reactive powers is due to the parallel addition of the capacitor to the load. So, the reactive power due to the capacitor, we can just say that QC is equal to Q1 minus Q2. And this is equal to 3,000. This is 3,000 minus Q2 is 1314.4. And this is equal to 1685.6 bar. And we can now compute for the value of capacitance or capacitor. So, C is equal to QC over omega VRMS squared. Our QC is 1685.6 bar. All over our omega is 2 pi F. Our F is 60 Hertz. and then our VRMS is 120 squared. So finally, our capacitance would be equal to 310.5 microfarad. Now we have here finally the application. So power measurement, the average power absorbed by a load is measured by an instrument called the wattmeter. We all know that wattmeter is the instrument for measuring the average power. For the electricity consumption cost, total cost is equal to fixed cost plus cost of energy. We have here a sample problem. A manufacturing industry consumes 200 megawatt hour in 1 month. If the maximum demand is 1,600 kilowatt, calculate the electricity bill based on the following two. Part 3. Demand charge, $5 per month per kilowatt of billing demand, and then the energy charge is 8 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 50,000 kilowatt hour, 5 cents per kilowatt hour for the remaining energy. Now let's compute. For the demand charge, say demand charge, that is $5,000 per month. We have here the maximum demand of 1,600 kilowatt. So we have here $5 per kilowatt and multiplied by 1,600 kilowatt, and this is equal to $8,000. So the energy charge for the first 50,000 kilowatt hour is 8 cents. We have 8 cents is 0.08. 8 cents is 0.08 per kilowatt hour multiplied by the first 50,000 kilowatt hour. So this will be equal to $4,000. And then the remaining energy, so consumption is 200 megawatt hour. So this is 200 kilowatt hour minus 50 kilowatt hour. So the remaining is 150,000 kilowatt hour, and we will multiply this to the remaining energy rate. So 5 cents, 0.05 per kilowatt hour times 150,000 kilowatt hour. So that is equal to $7,500. So the total bill will be the summation of these charges. We have 8,000 plus 4,000 plus 7,500, and that is equal to $19,500. So that's the end of our discussion for today. Good luck on your midterm exam.